And not to interrupt you, but I do want to let people know that are tuning in to this podcast. This is going to be kind of a music podcast because we're going to talk to Duane about concert photography. And then if we have some time towards the end, we're going to talk a little bit about vinyl record collecting. And that's something that I don't think you and I have had the opportunity to really compare some notes. To say that he's a photographer for the biggest celebrities on the planet, is that a proper way to describe what
probably a bit much. I wish I knew them a little more on a personal level, but I pretty much get my 3 songs photographed, and I'm out of the way. And they don't even know I'm there sometimes. But
well, we are here with Duane Clawson, DC Photo Works. And Duane and I used to shoot a few years ago prior to the pandemic. You and I did a lot of shoots and gigs together. And I think that aside from us just being kind of co-photographers, we've become quite good friends. And
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will have to say right now, for those of you that are not watching the YouTube video, okay, because you guys know that you can listen to the Tossing Salad podcast as just a traditional podcast where it's just the audio. But if you are watching the video, and if there is one video for you guys to actually go and watch while you're listening to the podcast, it's going to be this one here, because right now we are looking at one of my ex-girlfriends that Duane had the privilege of shooting a few weeks ago when he canceled on our podcast because he had to go shoot Miss Carrie Underwood at concert. And Duane, I am you did good, buddy. How the hell did you get this gig?
Little background on the concert photography. Of 12 years or so ago, he's now my son-in-law. He started a website called MTC Mag, which stands for Music Taster's Choice. He started that roughly about 2007 in Ardmore, Oklahoma, I believe. He moved in with my stepdaughter in New York, and so he shot all kinds of shows in New York. And about 2011 or so, he discussed the possibility. He said, "You love photography, you love music, so how do you feel about shooting shows in St. Louis?" Where I was at the time, now in Texas. So anyways, I said, yeah, great deal. So my first show was actually Reverend Horton Heat. For those rockabilly fans out there, you'll know who he is. He was down at a venue called the Old Rock House in St. Louis. Yeah, my pictures were terrible. So I knew nothing about...
What year was that? Approximately what year did you kind of start doing that? The concert photography?
2011. So right around 12 years ago.
Right now, we are looking at your latest photo of Carrie Underwood at the concert there. What venue was this particular one?
Choctaw Casino in Durant, Oklahoma. So I shot this for MTC Mag. So a little bit about concert photography. It's very strange. It's a strange business. We got approved to shoot Miss Underwood, and that's all through her PR people and everything like that. Let's say, for instance, Chris Stapleton, I photographed him twice. Once in the Fox Theater and once at a old festival in St. Louis called Lou Fest. Ever since then, we have not got approved to photograph him, but he pretty much goes with one photographer, and it's his personal photographer, and no outside entities outside of major news outlets are allowed to photograph him. Miss Underwood approved us, or her PR team did, and but for this, we had the shoot from the soundboard. There was me and one other photographer, 2 other photographers.
And how does that usually go with each different singer that comes in that you're photographing? Are there always a specific set of rules on how you do that, or where the photographers are supposed to be kind of stationed, or does that change per person?
Yeah,
or what?
No,
how does that work?
There's all kinds of crazy stuff I've encountered. Say, for instance, ZZ Top, which happens to be one of my all-time favorite photographs of Billy Gibbons. Happened by chance, but anyways, you have to pick a side, one side or the other of the stage, and I just so happened to pick the side that Dusty was on, the bass player who passed away just a couple of years ago. Anyways, he's not quite as entertaining as Billy Gibbons, so for that, it was one side stage or the other. Sometimes you can't be directly in front of the artist. You can be either side of the center stage, but you can't be directly in front of the, as they call them, nose hair shots. But Carrie Underwood was the soundboard, so I had to shoot with a 100 to 300 lens, not my favorite lens to shoot with.
Because
And we
you're
pretty
having
much,
to do kind of a super long lens, right? Just to reach her from
yes,
where you had to be
yes.
at, right? Okay.
Yes, for the non-photographers, yes, and it's not the best in low light. Miss Underwood, we only got to photograph 2 songs, so that varied a little from the normal. The normal is 3 songs usually. Just before Miss Underwood, at the same casino, just a few weeks before, I got to photograph Chevelle, but that was all up by the stage. That was in what they call the photo pit, which is right there by the stage.
On the one, and I keep focusing in on the Carrie Under. We have Duane has given us a couple photos to look at while we're talking, and I say that Carrie Underwood was my ex-girlfriend. I mean, I had the biggest crush on her since she was on American Idol.
Brian, is it Taylor Swift or Carrie Underwood? Which one? I
If
know.
I had to choose,
Yes.
boy, that's a Sophie's choice there. I mean, because I have Carrie Underwood, and I'm telling you, and Duane, make sure I don't get in trouble tonight, but those legs that she has, I know she's famous for her legs. I'm telling you, the photo you have here, and and hopefully people can go to the YouTube video or your site. Do you have some of these posted on like maybe your Instagram account?
Yes, and that can be found at DC Photo Works, and it's DC PHOTOWERX.
The muscle definition of her
Yeah.
legs here. I mean, you did a great job. I mean, I'm looking and I'm like, oh my God. And even though you were, I guess you said from the sound booth and kind of far away, I mean, the detailed shots here. Are
So a little setup on this as well too. For basically, I said we got the first 2 songs. The first song, she stood at the back of the back riser of the stage and stood behind Mike's stand, as you see in the picture there. So she didn't come out to the front of the stage until the second song. So it was fast and furious to get what shots I did, and then. Kind of to set this up, some artists do this too. They want to see the photos that are going out there. Super Bowl incident from a few years ago with, I believe it was it Rihanna? Photographer put the really bad photo of her out there. And so some
explain
artists,
explain that, because I hadn't heard that. Was that the one where she was pregnant?
No, but it was a really bad shot and something I would have never put out there. But just her facial expression, her knees were kind of together, and it looked like she had to maybe go pee or something. It was terrible. So,
and the photographer got in trouble, or the company in charge got in trouble?
The photographer sent it out there and put it out there, and I was like, why would you ever put that photograph out there? So,
well, but anyways, because you want to. This is hopefully a win-win for both parties, right? Because you want to put the best possible photo out there and hopefully please the artist enough to where the next time they're like, oh yeah, this guy did pretty good job the last time, we'll let him shoot it again. As opposed to if you do her dirty, if you do the artist dirty, they're gonna probably remember you and say, no, not this guy.
To go along with the articles or the photos, I also do reviews of the show, and I kind of try and give a fan's perspective of the show. And because most artists that I photograph, I also try to be a fan of as well. So definitely helps. But as my wife says, she likes being there without all the noise and the lights and all that. And she feels like she's there when she reads a review of one of my shows. So
sure.
Miss Underwood was a tough one with only 2 songs to shoot from the distance we had to shoot her from. So they gave us, I believe it was 10 shots. They said, go ahead and use these. But again, I think a lot of that's embarrassment, and you don't want anything bad going out there. The PR people want to see some sort of result. And so because we apply under the guise of saying that we're going to review. So my pay basically is getting a free ticket to the show and getting to photograph the artist.
So the 2 or 3 song limit, does that have to do with a couple things, in a sense that one, so you're not so much of a distraction to the artist? And then the second question of that is, do they play to the cameras for those 2 or 3 songs. So at least they know, okay, first 3 songs, we've got the photographers here. They can kind of play to the camera, and then then once the 2 or 3 songs are done, you're out of the way, and then they're playing more to the audience, or no?
So the first 3 songs, in my experience so far, is usually the crappiest lighting of any of their time on stage. A lot of times it's red lights, blue lights, which are horrible to photograph in. But yeah, that it's kind of like after the first 3 songs, you're out of the way, and then because a lot of times if you're in front, you're in front of the audience in the front row, and you're
Sure.
kind of a distraction. But every now and then the artist will play it up for the camera. I forget the middle band that opened for Chevelle, but he played for the camera, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed every minute of it. But
did you notice, did she play to you at all? Like, make eye contact, or did she play to your camera at some point?
Carrie Underwood, no, because we were such a far distance back.
Too far away.
So, yeah. So she worked the crowd good, but still not the best lighting and not the best. It definitely improved after the first couple songs. Everything she performed a lot more and was a lot more active after the first 2 songs. So and they're kind of when you come out for the first 3 songs, that's kind of their warm-up period, and they're feeling out the audience and everything like that. So it's kind of everybody's not quite sure, but every now and then you'll get an artist that plays for the camera. And
sure.
We have, just as an example, I got to photograph Kiss a couple weeks ago, and
that
Gene
had to have been a
Simmons.
blast.
Gene Simmons, I'm pretty sure that I got a private show from him, and I really enjoyed it. But I don't know about a private show from a 74-year-old musician, but anyways,
I think everything that I know about him, and probably anybody that wears as much makeup as they do as a band, they want the eyes on them. They're always playing up. So
yes.
I got to imagine that was just for a photographer, that was a fantastic show to shoot.
My favorite picture of it was actually Paul Stanley, and he gave me eye contact, his famous pose with the guitar between the legs and a pick on his tongue. So,
and that's what you want as a photographer, right? You want either the signature shot or something, and they're wanting that also. Because they're selling themselves. This is all marketing for them and for you. So, yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah, I was kind of jealous because Scott, the editor, and my son-in-law that runs MTC Mag, he had photographed Kiss like 6 times, and he had the signature shot, but he only had the guitar pick on the tongue of Paul Stanley, and I got the full frontal, the full body shot of Paul Stanley there. So I was pretty happy at that. So but I was very jealous of his photos of Kiss, and getting to see him on their supposed final world tour, which has been going on for 3 years now, but.
Right. Well, as a photographer, as many concerts that you've photographed, and you've done a lot of other things other than concert photography, and we can kind of touch on that here briefly just in a little bit. Do you print out some of these, and are they in a room or up on your wall somewhere of some of your favorite ones? Like, how do you...
I don't know how much you can see behind me, but I have 2 of my favorites behind me. Gary Clark Jr., I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's an excellent guitar player. And it was one of the first times I believe I photographed him down at the pageant, which is there in St. Louis. Great lighting and, kind of great lighting. I had to work on the photo a little bit. Again, it was some reds and blues, but he had the fog rising and all that, the smoke machines going, and so I got that. I got my favorite shot of Billy Gibbons behind me as well from ZZ Top. I don't know if you want me to go into that story, but you had to pick a side, and I was in front of Dusty Hill, I believe. Billy Gibbons, he got the famous beard. He was on the other side of the stage, and I was shooting away and not really getting the shots that I wanted. I had to shoot him with a 7200 lens, which you know what that is. So,
yeah, nice.
And on the 200 end to get some shots. That was one where we had 3 songs. Right at the end of the 3rd songs, Billy Gibbons started strolling my direction. I was like, oh my. So let's hope everything's where it's supposed to be. Right at the end of the 3rd song, he leans in kind of toward my camera, and I was like, I got the shot. And so it was a magic moment, and it's my all-time favorite concert shot.
Have you ever had the opportunity to get any of those autographed, like the next time that you saw them, the next time around?
I have one and that is Ben Wells. He's from a band called Blackstone Cherry, which is probably he's one of the most active guitar players that's out there. He's nonstop. In fact, they got to photograph them in the height of summer here in Texas, and I believe when they went on stage at around 8ish, the temperature was 103,
Oh my God.
and for 2 hours he was nonstop jumping and kicking. And my article, I kind of touched that. I was like, I thought they'd kind of phone it in the heat, but no, he was his usual self. I photographed them 4 times. The first time starting in 2012 at a club in Dayton, Ohio. So yeah, I was a fanboy, and I hung out by their tour bus with my 8x10 and said, Mr. Wells, big fan, can you sign this for me? And I blushed a little bit and maybe cried. And but it's a beautiful black and white shot, old rock house there, and that was there in St. Louis. I think they're still in business, but it was a great venue. It was like I think 500 seat venue, and old wooden stage, and they have a balcony in the building. But yeah, the place was packed, and it was a hot, sweaty night in there too. Even blushed a little bit more when the band's bass player said, "Man, that's a great shot." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, sir."
Really? That is pretty neat. Would you consider
Yep.
yourself a better photographer than you are a writer with the
Oh
reviews
yes,
that you
the
do?
writing, the writing's horrible. I struggle greatly, and to keep it fresh every time. Like, I know I've repeated myself somewhere in the past 12 years. That's definitely the hardest part. Thank
Do you,
God for YouTube, because a lot of times when I wrote my Kiss review, I pretty much relied on somebody's video that they shot the whole show, because there was a couple quotes that I wanted to remember and couldn't remember them verbatim. So I was like, oh, let me go back and look at this guy's YouTube video, and that helped me. I take notes throughout the show, but
sure.
Kiss, I wasn't the best at taking notes, because I was like, yeah, man, I'm quite a fan here, and I'm really enjoying the moment. So I didn't take notes like I should have. Their shows, it's kind of canned, if you will. They kind of do the same show every time, and just change the name of the city that they love. But
Well, you almost have to do that. All the artists,
yeah,
I mean, you can't change it up too much, or else it just be kind of a
there's some artists that are every time, every night. There's a guy that plays some bluegrass music. His name's Billy Strings, which is
yeah.
on my bucket list to photograph. Amazing musician as well. He posts his set list every night, and every night it's different. So
But the production has to be different. Like Kiss, the way they go to their shows with how everything's, I would imagine, is produced. I've never been to one of their concerts. I would imagine that that's probably why they have to stay kind of consistent in what they do. Maybe change up one or two songs, whereas
yeah,
maybe a
they
smaller
did
artist
it was
can.
kind of interesting. I did take note that there was a errant explosion. It was just like there was no flash or anything, but when something popped, you could see it actually caught Paul Stanley's attention, the lead singer and guitar player for Kiss. He did a bit where he goes out to a stage out in the middle of the audience, which is elevated. But anyways, you could see just kind of him looking toward the stage like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. So
Really?
yeah, so even those guys who have been doing it since 1973 or something like that, they still have their moments as well.
Well, I was going to say, I've got quite a few people that follow on the different social media accounts that are into photography at different stages of their careers. And some of them are towards the beginning of their journey. Some of the younger ones that you and I have kind of worked with. You and I go back how long? 15 years? 10? I don't even remember how long you and I
Yeah,
go back.
probably getting on to 10, something
10?
like that.
And
Yeah.
we work with some young people before, and ones that have just started to come up and are looking to kind of cut their teeth on different things. For those type of people that are photographers, they're getting into the business and they want to do concert photography, what would you suggest that they do? Like, how would you give them some tips on how to break in to the business? If this is what they want to do, like they're like, man, what Duane does at these shows, I want to photograph Kiss, I want to photograph Carrie Underwood. How does somebody that has no connections, what would you advise them to do?
First of all, get yourself a publication, online magazine, such as I do the photos for. Somebody that's out there, because that's what PR people want. They want results. They want to see something tangible that's out there on social media, and they'll continue to invite you back or be a club. Know they rely a lot on cell phones now, but there's clubs out there that you could be the house photographer for. But
So a
you got to
lone
have,
wolf isn't going to get those type of opportunities for bigger artists, is what you're saying. So go to
yeah, it's
established publications, look to see if you can get on there, or like you said, like a specific club to be the club photographer that way.
yeah, or it doesn't even have to be a. You have one local there in St. Louis. His name's Mick Light. Arch City Media is his, but he's got his hand in a little bit of everything, sports and music photography, but he pretty much does no reviews, and he just posts like 50, 60 pictures from the concert.
Right.
But he has the Art City Media umbrella, which he posts under, and he has a great following a lot of times for his sports. He's kind of a concert photographer second, but he has the outlet. He has the following with Art City Sports and Art City Media. So he has that, and that's what gets him in the door. And he's actually got to photograph some pretty big artists as well.
What are your thoughts on contacting photographers like yourself? Let's say I'm a big fan and I've seen a lot of your work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a young photographer coming up, and this is what I want to do. Would
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to you directly to be like, hey, Duane, how can I shoot with you sometime or intern with you? Or how do you approach something like that? Do people email you or message you and say they want to work with you and they just want to get some hours behind the camera, or just to kind of pick your brain on things? Or, how does that work?
Mainly advice. It's only happened a couple of times. We know she photographed a couple marathons with us, Miss Carrie, if I can say her name. Anyways, she shot for some online publication out of California, I believe it was. I remember being very nervous, and she sent me messages on Instagram and like, what do I do, and where do I go, and how do I act, and everything like that. I just, basically told her be respectful. I had a gentleman in Pennsylvania, I believe. He's mainly pretty much a hobby photographer. He photographs a motorcycle racing event in Florida called Sons of Speed, which I had the pleasure of shooting a couple of years ago, but that's where I met him. He loved my concert photography. So anyways, he had his first concert coming up, and he sent me a message and like, what do I do, and what lens do I take, and
Right.
camera settings, and all kinds of questions. So, but yes, feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll try and get you pointed in the right direction. I remember that thrill, and I still get that thrill. And if a young photographer can experience that, I'd be more than happy to get them going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's the thing. Since you left me a couple years ago, now Duane used to live in St. Louis with me, and then he's moved down to Texas with his beautiful wife. And
Thank you.
since then, so Duane and I, how many gigs do you think you and I shot together, ballpark wise?
Together, not a whole bunch.
Together and kind of just through each other. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Through each other, man, a lot. Because I did. So it's kind of weird. I don't know if I can say this, but we photographed for the county in Missouri that we lived in. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
So we don't have people beating on your door and figure out where you live and all that. But
it's fine.
these were events for the county, which is actually very strange. It's also kind of like concert photography, just minus the flashing lights and all that stuff. A lot of people out glad handing, as I say, shaking hands and kissing babies and want to be seen and want to be photographed and all that stuff. So it's kind of strange how the two equate to each other. So I don't think Brian cared much for those events. So he usually passed those off to me. But,
well, we had a great working relationship, I thought, for the years. And just aside from the fact that you're a super talented photographer, and I've mentioned this several times to some of the clients that we've shot for, I would always say Duane is by far, I think talent-wise, you're a better photographer than I am. I'm really good at the business side of things as far as getting some of the jobs. As far as like the creative shots and everything, whenever you and I were to go out, whether we were shooting, you and I have done some weddings together, we've done some races together. I don't know if anything outside of those that we shot together.
No, but I always enjoyed our location scouting trips and So I
But we
have
would
a
put in the work and we would put in the
yes,
effort. And I
yes.
always knew that at the end of the day, at the end of the wedding or at the end of a race, I always had the comfort in knowing that I didn't always have to get every one of the great shots because I knew that you were going to come with something that would honestly just kind of blow me away to where I'm like, God damn, Duane, that's a really good shot. And I know there was one wedding where the bride and the groom, they were like, all the shots that they really, really loved were all yours. But for me, that's great because you're going in there as a team. And one of the things that I think the stress of shooting, let's say a wedding, and if you're shooting it with somebody else, I was shooting with Duane, you never want to get to a point with a client to where you let them down.
Nope.
Especially for a wedding, right?
That's what I'm there for. I'm not there to get drunk or anything like that. Even though after one wedding we shot, I may have indulged a little bit and may
Well,
have gotten in trouble with
you
my
and I
wife
work
a little
hard.
bit.
We work hard. But I knew at the end of a wedding or an end of a race that we were to shoot, you were going to have a bunch of really good photos to where I felt just fantastic knowing between the two of us, we were going to present some really good photos, which is justification for a lot of the money that we charge for our work. And for me to be able to have somebody that is not only creative and talented, but here's the thing, dependable and grown up. And this is where I'm gonna lay into you a little bit for leaving me in the last 2 years.
You're making me blush, Brian. You're making me blush.
Well, I am dead serious because this goes to the adage of you never know what you have until it's gone. And I'm telling you, for the last 2 years, I have been cursing your name because it is so hard to find other photographers that you can work with. There's a lot of talented people out there. You scroll social media, Instagram, everybody with a camera and a cell phone, and you're looking at the photos that they post. A lot of creative people out there. The problem that a lot of people don't have on the business side of things is being responsible and being grown up and being dependable. And I have gone through, I don't know how many in the last 2 years since you've been gone, but just even like the last race that we cover, Duane and I used to cover it's called here the Mo Cowbell race.
Mo Cowbell, yep.
Huge race here in St. Charles, Missouri. I think like 5,000 to 7,000 runners or something like that. It's a Boston qualifier, but it's also you get all your serious runners, but then you have a bunch of people that are there just for fun that are doing like the half marathon, a 5K, and they're dressed 5K, up as like dressed up as cows or dressed up as, just for having fun.
Would you, you got all those people. I was out there at mile 22, and some mornings it was freezing cold up there on top of the bridge.
So Duane was the guy that was covering the bridge and all the runners crossing the bridge. And I just knew, okay, every year I could depend on Duane getting there, but being there and then getting some really cool shots. And I didn't have to worry about it. And the same with a friend of ours, Tom, who also shoots kind of with us on those races. He's really the only other one that I have continued to use and work with.
Has he retired now, Brian?
He has officially retired from photography with the exception of he does come out and shoot those races
did he come out this year?
Yeah. So he comes out and shoots that race in the Newtown area. And he does a fantastic job also. But I'll tell you, if and when he decides that he's completely done, I don't know what I'm going to do because I have gone through every year. It's a different photographer for the bridge area that you're at.
Well,
and
hopefully we found you one this year. So
this year
I think we found you a good guy this year.
You totally that was Lewis, right?
Yes,
if Lewis. I remember his name.
Yeah.
Lewis Kwok.
He's an event shooter as well, and I met him shooting concerts. So
Duane saved my ass again by coming up with a guy that Duane doesn't even live here in St. Louis anymore, and he's helping me, find just people that would return a phone call. And I had a guy last year, and he did a fine job, and I came back to him, but he was very delayed in getting back to me on any kind of messages, which I hate that. And
You had the one guy that shot for the Rams, I believe. I wish you could have secured him because he
what
was still a great sport shooter, but
some of the guys that I have used before, uh, that are the bigger photographers that do a lot of the stuff, they have to have the weekend like completely free already. But this isn't like one on the high priority list. So I would love to have guys like that all the time. But the one that I used last year, and it's just it's pulling teeth trying to get information from or whatever. But he finally did the job, got me the pictures. I was like, fine. So I went back to him again. He was like, oh yeah, I'm in. And this is after like days and days of not responding back to me. Well, then,
and I know you were biting, gritting your teeth and
well,
everything.
just weeks before the race, I like to like check in with the photographers and say, hey, you guys still up for October 1st?
It's a big event. So yeah,
it's a big event. Trying to find somebody that not only can do it but will show up to do it, and wouldn't respond. I tried to contact him on several emails, on his social media accounts, and nothing. And I finally said, you know what, screw it. And I was trying to get a hold of other people, and it's just the last 2 years has been awful in the photography world of just finding reasonable, responsible,
reliable.
people.
Yeah, reliable. A lot of times when I would come out to photograph the marathon, especially, it was on a Sunday morning, and I had worked a 12-hour shift the night before. So
Yeah.
I would come straight out there, and I'd have my camera gear packed and go straight from work. I got off at 7 a.m. and would go out there and find my spot on the bridge,
But
and sit
I
out there and
never
wait on
had
runners.
to worry. And that's the thing that I'm like, why I miss you, not only just as a working buddy and photographer, but we've become kind of pretty good friends over the last
Yep.
few years. I think during the pandemic, when we weren't supposed to see each other or whatever, you and I met up. I think you wanted to take me out to
We
the
did,
astronomy park or something.
We were out there for, I believe, a meteor shower, and we wound up not really getting too many meteors, but we wound up playing with light and did some light painting, and I think we had a good time. I enjoyed it.
We were just like photographing each other like Jack and Rose on Titanic. But it's just fun. You and I have fun doing that kind of stuff. We work really well together, and that's definitely what I miss.
Brian, one of my greatest stories with you was we were out scouting location, and we for the marathon, I believe, and we came across this little baby garter snake, and I was down on my belly photographing the snake, and Brian was like halfway up the hill, like looking over my shoulder, like, oh my God, is that thing going to latch onto you? And this thing was literally about 6 inches long.
Well, that's the thing with photographers, though. You go out with a photographer, and if we have our cameras with us, we're constantly stopping to take a picture of something. So nothing's ever very quick. I don't think
Brian was too fond of the snake, though.
No, I'm still not. I'm working on it, but I'm still not a big fan of snakes or spiders. I'm glad
it's an acquired taste. We were out walking our dog a few weeks back in our little neighborhood, and there was a very large cottonmouth in the middle of the street. So we were still kind of dry, and we believe he was looking for water, but he was probably up around the 3 foot long neighborhood. So